County Hughes, and this is Missing. Each week here at News Nation, we focus on a missing persons case from across the country. Men and women of different races, ethnicities, backgrounds. What we say each week is every single missing person matters. They matter to their family, to their friends, and oftentimes to complete strangers who are following these cases. We want you to be part of this process to help bring these missing people home safely to their families. Each week, as we take a look at these cases, it gives these families hope that a positive outcome is likely. And even today, we've had a positive outcome in one of the cases that we have covered. In a moment, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions about the case we're covering this week, submit comments as well, and be part of the discussion. This week's case takes us to California, and more specifically to Mexico. A mother and a grandmother who has dual U.S.-Mexico citizenship, who was kidnapped from her home in Mexico about 6 months ago. Her name is Maria del Carmen Lopez. Her kidnappers are asking for a ransom, money her family says they do not have. Investigative journalist Rich McHugh spoke to the family and has a closer look at Maria's disappearance and kidnapping.
A mother of 7, grandmother to 19. 63-year-old Maria del Carmen Lopez retired to this home in Colima, Mexico 10 years ago. A dual citizen of Mexico and the U.S., she would make frequent visits back to California to see her children. But on February 9th, a phone call from Mexico began a nightmare.
Your mind goes into fight mode. Your body, it's a complete shock. It's horrible.
Her daughter Zoe says the neighbors there called to say they saw her get kidnapped.
We started calling the authorities here locally. We didn't know. What do you do in this instance? If she's a U.S. citizen, who do we reach out to for help here? Because we are unsure who can possibly help us in Mexico.
The details were sparse and difficult to hear.
3 to 4 men who came in a van. My mom was watering her plants outside. 2 men jumped out of the van. There was some type of exchange of words. And then another person, another man, a heavy-set man, came out. And this other individual came out, covered her mouth, picked her up, and took her into the van. And they drove away. That was it. That's all we had.
The next day, the FBI jumped on the case.
There is photographic and video evidence, not necessarily of the kidnapping per se, but around her residence when other males were seen, both talking to her as well as then returning to the house before she was taken.
Working with Mexican authorities, the FBI put up a $20,000 reward for any details leading authorities to her. And then her family heard from her captors with a proof of life recording.
24 hours later, we received a phone call from this individual who said, I have your mom, and we need you to do everything that we say and pay up this amount of money, which immediately we all knew we were in trouble because we don't have that kind of money. We did ask for a proof of life, and within 48 hours, I believe, there was a recording of my mother where she's pleading for her life. She mentions a few of my brothers and sisters, and she says, please do what they say as soon as you can, because my life depends on it. And they hung up. And it was just a nightmare.
Why do you think they kidnapped your mother? Like, what possible reason would they have to go after your mother?
She's a U.S. citizen. In that town, it's extremely small. It is no more than 300 people in the town, mostly family of ours. They have a fairly, newer home. They built their home as a retirement home 10 years ago. We feel it's definitely targeted.
Zoe says that her family communicated that they did not have that kind of money, a 6-figure demand. The calls stopped, and it's been silent for months. The FBI insists they are working the case with Mexican authorities, and they have since updated the reward to $25,000 and added these 2 pictures to the bulletin, which show the handguns the men were carrying.
But we know that those photographs were from a proof of life video that was provided to the family from the kidnappers. We're always hopeful. We work these cases until we can't anymore. So we are hopeful that we will identify and have her returned home.
But her family is exasperated at what they feel is a slow investigation and has asked President Biden to intervene. They have a message to their mother's captors.
She's a mother. She belongs with us. We're not a rich family. We don't have what you're asking for. Please find it in your heart to just give her that. It's been 5 months of absolute hell for us. Please contact us. We need her. Mom, I'm sorry. You're very strong, and it's been over 5 months, and we have not stopped a single day. We're doing everything that we possibly can to find you. We're not going to give up on you, Mom. We love you, your grandchildren, and all of us, your kids. We all miss you, and we're looking for you, Mom. Please hang on. We're going to find you.
Joining me now to talk more about this case, Law Olmsted, president of the Missing Persons Center. Law joins us on many of our missing cases. We have a shared interest in trying to bring these people home safely. Law, this one is a little more complicated than some of the other ones that we cover, being that we're dealing with Mexico here, and we know some information that in a lot of cases we don't know, starting with the fact she was kidnapped and those captors are asking for a ransom. How much more difficult is it to work an investigation like this for the family who's in California?
Well, Marty, this is a really, really shocking and tragic case because the lack of communication is my biggest concern. Normally, when demands aren't initially met or there's no negotiation, we'll say, not good things happen to the people. Or the kidnappers will negotiate with more proof of life things, but more in the context of torture, putting the loved one in some sort of uncomfortable position, tied to a chair, mouth duct tape, whatever it is, showing them that they're serious and that they will do harm. In this situation, I'm not aware of any of those things occurring. So the lack of communication at this point, being only 6 months into this, is very scary. Another thing that makes this a little different than other cases as well is that this is not like a typical cartel type of kidnapping and ransom. This doesn't feel like cartel to me. It feels more like a local group in this small community who's familiar with her specifically, believing she has access to American money or wealth, and trying to take advantage of that. But also the FBI issuing a reward initially for $20,000 and then upping it recently to $25,000 indicates to me as well, there's no new information, there's no new communication, there's really nothing new on this case, and they're doing the best they can with nothing to try to generate something. And it appears it's not working at this time. Yeah,
and I'm curious, based on your communication with law enforcement on lots of other cases that you cover, what resources and pull does law enforcement have to investigate something like this? How do they go about trying to, one, communicate with Mexican authorities and then use what they have in terms of evidence and these phone calls to the family to try to find out where these calls are coming from?
Well, that's a good question because the resources allocated are different in every case depending on the local municipality. And from what I understand, the locals were involved very quickly. The FBI was involved very quickly. As far as tracking these phone calls, I don't think there's been any ability to do so. And one thing that I was kind of interested in is, what did she have with her when she was abducted? I've seen reports saying she had a phone with her, but I've had no confirmation of the phone. If she had anything like a phone, it'd be really a great way to kind of establish, what direction she went, somewhere she went, if the phone's still working, if it pinged anywhere, if anyone went through the phone looking through contacts. But we don't have any of that. And another thing as well, usually is communication to your community or the local news or even just online, any kind of groups or Facebook, social media. there's been really no communication about this case from law enforcement at any level, whether it be in the United States or in Mexico, to kind of gauge what has been going on, what the protocol has been, other agencies that may be involved, what search efforts, dogs, canines, anything that have been used. There's really no information. And that to me is very concerning as well, because why is there no communication? Why, after 10 years of this woman living in that community, all of a sudden she became a target of a kidnapping for ransom? Something else is going on here that is just not fitting the narrative.
Right. We're hearing very little from law enforcement. The family has made a plea to President Biden asking the White House to get involved. The same goes for Mexico's president. I think really the only attention it's getting is from media. We've covered this case a number of times, and I do think the power of social media helps in cases like this. Pam from Facebook is asking, is it helpful, or has the family set up a GoFundMe to raise money? In a case like this, where you've got these captors asking for money, would that be treated any differently? Would the plea from the public, hey, help so we can pay these people off, be helpful or more harmful? How do you see it?
I think anything is helpful when it comes to raising money. I've seen that there is a GoFundMe. I believe they've only raised a very, very small amount of money, maybe $12,000 to $15,000. I don't know what the goal was, but I think the goal was lower than what the ransom would be. I think that the family may be contemplating hiring their own investigators to take a look at this, which at this point may be advisable, but I think it's also very dangerous for anyone to go looking for her, close by where she lives, because it's a very tight community.
Yeah, no, it's dangerous. I've talked to her daughter, Zoe, and going to this Pueblo Nuevo, Colima, Mexico, is dangerous. I don't know how they felt about their mom being there in the first place, but they do believe she was targeted. We're going to continue to follow this law with you as well, but I want to get your thoughts on a positive outcome case. We have another story that we just learned this morning of one of the missing people that we've been covering has now been found safe and alive. Her name is Alicia Navarro. It's been 4 years since she ran away from home in Arizona, September 15th, 2019. She was 14 years old at the time. Her mom believes she was lured away by a stranger while gaming online. Police in Glendale, Arizona said that she walked into a police department in Montana and said, I am Alicia Navarro. I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm safe, and I'm sorry to my mom. Here's a quick listen.
She was located in a very small town in Montana near the Canadian border. We can tell you that she went to a local police department in that area. She identified herself as Alicia Navarro. And at that point, our officers went into investigation mode.
Police say this investigation is just beginning. They don't know where she's been all these years or who she's been with. There could be charges in this case, depending on where the investigation leads them. I spoke with Alicia's mom 2 years ago. She had left a note for her mom saying, I ran away, I'll be back, I swear I'm sorry. And now she is home safe. Her mom saying she is so grateful. Here's her post.
First of all, I want to give glory to God for answering their prayers and for this miracle. For everyone who has missing loved ones, I want you to use this case as an example that miracles do exist and never lose hope and always fight.
Alicia is now asking for privacy. She says she's apologetic for what she's put her mom through, and she is hopeful that they can have a relationship now. I talked to law enforcement just a little while ago. They said she still has her braces on that she had on 4 years ago and said, I'd like to get my braces off. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this case, and I know we can't talk specifics yet because, one, we don't know all of them, but the hope that a case like this brings to other families of missing people. It's why we're doing it. My guess is it's why you are so invested in so many of these cases. To see a girl like this 4 years later reunited with her family just opens up so many opportunities for families to think it might be possible for me.
Yeah, it's a really great outcome. I'm so happy to hear, that she's made herself found, been recovered, whatever you want to call it. It's an interesting situation because to me, this is a typical runaway case. And, I see this stuff on a daily basis and been dealing with it for years. And it just sounds like one of these cases where a 14-year-old, whether lured away or not, decides that she's going to leave home for a better life and do all the things that she wants to do and have freedom at 14. And then she turns 18. And then the people that she's staying with a boyfriend or his family or just whoever is housing her, says, you're 18 now. We need you to go to work. We need you to contribute a little bit. And now the person's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back home now. So I'm not saying this is the situation. It looks like that on the surface without knowing more. But nonetheless, no matter what the situation led up to this, it's good news that she's home. Because if these were people that were holding her against her will, trafficking her or something, this wouldn't be the outcome. It wouldn't just be simply dropping her off somewhere or her walking in somewhere where she could be identified. It would be horribly different. So this is a great outcome. It's not typical of what you see in these cases for sure.
No, it certainly is not. But we are thrilled to be able to report the news that she is safe and piece together what we can while also maintaining her and her family's privacy through the process. La Olmsted, thank you for being with us as we talk about these missing cases and the potential that every missing person can be found safely, just like Alicia. Thank you again for your expertise. And to you at home, thank you as always for participating. If there is a missing person case you think that we should know about, send it to newsnationnow.com/missing. And you can also send us tips through our News Nation app. If you have any information on the disappearance and whereabouts of Maria del Carmen Lopez, it is an active investigation. A mother of 7, a grandmother of 19, just 63 years old, a dual citizen, kidnapped from her home in Pueblo Nuevo, Colima, Mexico.